We are live. A lot to discuss. I'm just going to wait a couple moments for people to connect. Going to be talking about the DNC chair election. Going to be talking about some of the stories that are going to be on tomorrow's program. Just a ton to discuss. And I've been just researching stories the last couple of hours, and many stories to discuss. I'll be talking about the White House blocking some media outlets from the White House press briefing room. I'll be talking about Donald Trump's CPAC statements about anonymous sources. I will be talking about a completely imaginary Swedish defense advisor that showed up on Bill O'Reilly's program, and the expected apology that I think we're going to get tomorrow night. Okay, so Super Chat is on. We'll be doing, as usual, live shout outs and thank yous to people who sign up at davidpakman.com/membership during the live stream. A lot of stories to discuss, and glad everybody's here. Okay, number one, this is sort of interesting. I recently sent out, and I have here the first one. A few years ago, I did FOIA requests, Freedom of Information Act requests, to the FBI, NSA, a whole bunch of different agencies, and got basically responses from all of them saying, we're not going to tell you whether we have or don't have anything on you, but what we're telling you is we don't have anything on you that we are legally required to send you. And I did another round of these, and they started coming back in, and as you can see here, Department of Justice, the entire thing here. This one is from the FBI, and they're basically saying that they have nothing for me, that they are required to provide me under the Freedom of Information Act laws. However, I should not interpret this letter as a statement that there is no name file with my name, and or that I'm not on any watch list. They're saying, from what they're legally required to tell me, there's nothing that they're actually going to be telling me. Okay, so that's one interesting thing. Hopefully I'll get some others, CIA, NSA, others coming in soon. Basically what I expected, okay? Number two, I received, I didn't receive actually, my girlfriend received, because she's a registered Democrat and I'm not. Let me just make sure there's no information here. Yeah. This official 2017 Democratic Party survey, okay? And the questions here, I think the main point of sending these things out to people is to raise money, because it does come with something that says, please donate money. But it's a survey that purports to care about what Democrats want. And it asks about what domestic issues are more important to you, international issues. It has a section called the Republican Agenda, and it asks, like, which of Trump's 100-day priorities do you think are the most important ones to block? What do you want the legislative goals to be the top priorities for the Democratic Party as the minority in Congress? And I don't know, I have a hard time with believing that this thing is anything other than just an attempt to raise money. And if you see on the back page here at the bottom, basically they just want money. And that's really the main thing. So I think that this entire thing really is just to raise money. I don't know, call me crazy. It's not my impression that the Democratic Party really cares that much about what my girlfriend's legislative priorities are as far as that goes. Okay, so a couple things there. Hopefully we'll get more of the FOIA requests back from people soon. Okay, so I talked about the DNC survey, talked about the FOIA request stuff. Okay, I'm going to get into some of the stories I'm looking at for tomorrow's show. Once again, Super Chat is on. Feel free to send Super Chats if you want. We have a coupon code for a discount off of membership. That coupon code is IVoted17, and you can sign up at davidpakman.com/membership. And on that note, big thank you to Peter Slattery, who just signed up at davidpakman.com/membership. Peter Slattery becoming one of the record at this point, something like 452 new members this month at davidpakman.com/membership, more than doubling the best month previously. So big league stuff happening there. Okay, tomorrow on the show, I mentioned this on a prior live stream. I will be talking about more aspects of the Russian blackmail dossier of Donald Trump that have now been confirmed. I already mentioned that before, so I'm not going to get into that in detail. There's an interesting article in the Washington Post about how we shouldn't be surprised that Donald Trump's White House is in total chaos, because as a CEO, it was also chaos. And the Washington Post article exposes a lot of that. Okay, so we may have time for that tomorrow. Some of the stories I will definitely be covering tomorrow. The Democrats, or as I now am calling the Democratic Party, Democrats Incorporated, because it really feels like it's just the business of being the Democratic Party. Democrats have elected Tom Perez as DNC chair, defeating Keith Ellison 235 to 200, okay? And if you haven't been following this, the idea was that Keith Ellison was sort of like the Bernie candidate, and Tom Perez, who didn't announce his candidacy for basically a month to the day after Keith Ellison did. Tom Perez is the sort of establishment guy, right? The Hillary-aligned candidate. And indeed, and I'm going to talk about this tomorrow, there are 18 different emails in the John Podesta WikiLeaks emails. There are 18 emails between Podesta and Tom Perez, and we're going to talk about some of those. And really what they confirm is what most of us know, right? Which is that Tom Perez was a big Hillary supporter. Doesn't necessarily mean that he's bad for the Democratic Party, but he's part of the establishment that believes that you need to have a sort of Republican-light Democrat in order to win. And I fundamentally disagree with that, and I'm going to argue tomorrow on the show that this is a decision that ideologically, I look at my my Facebook feed, and I see tons of my friends who are really, really concerned ideologically about the new DNC chair. Ideologically, Keith Ellison is basically the same as Tom Perez, but the difference is sort of the view of how they see the Democratic Party going forward. And I think that this is not good. Ideologically, I don't think it's the disaster that many of my friends think, but I don't think that this is good. And this doesn't mean that I love everything that Keith Ellison stood for, right? I mean, there are areas where I disagree with Keith Ellison. He's been on the show. I've interviewed him before. But we're going to dig into that tomorrow. Thank you to Frank McWright, who just sent a $5 super chat. You can use the super chat feature anytime you want. And questions, comments, anything you want to get out to the audience, use the super chat. By all means, feel free. And big thank you to Charisse Walker. Charisse Walker just signed up at davidpakman.com/membership. She did use the coupon code IVoted17. That saves you 40% off of membership. You get 100% of the benefits for 40% off of 40% less money. And who can't get behind that, okay? And speaking of the bonus show, so associate producer Rachel Gordon, we announced maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, she had taken a full-time job and would be leaving the David Pakman show. And last night we had a sort of little going away thing for Rachel. And after this thing, I was walking to sort of back in the direction of where I live and the subway, with David Pakman show producer Pat and a couple of other people, and we witnessed what I would consider the biggest car accident that I've seen happening. Like, I've driven by worse accidents, clearly, but the worst car accident that I've seen happen, and it involved a car stuffed with people, and it's going to be an interesting bonus show tomorrow. Okay, let me put it that way. So that and more on tomorrow's bonus show. And of course, all members, all subscribers at davidpakman.com/membership get instant access to the bonus show and all of that other great stuff. So please sign up. And if the normal rates are a little high, use the coupon code IVoted17. Okay, thanks to Courtney Haynes, who sent a $5 super chat. No comment, no question, just sending a $5 super chat. Thank you very much. All right, let's get to some more stories. I will be discussing in much more detail, including the leaked audio that we now have related to the White House blocking certain media outlets from a press gaggle in Sean Spicer, the White House press secretary's office, on Friday. We now have Sean Spicer on video between the election and the inauguration, saying that the Trump administration was not going to be banning individual news outlets. Lie. Okay, so that didn't happen. We also have a quote from Sean Spicer where he said that it is dictatorial to start banning individual media outlets. And we have leaked audio from in that room where when Sean Spicer, we were led to believe that this was not an ideological list. Although when you look at the list, you had Breitbart, One America News, they're a piece of work, and the Washington Times in the office. And then you had CNN, Politico, the New York Times, BuzzFeed, and a few others out. You're telling me that it wasn't ideological? Anyway, we have Sean Spicer, leaked audio from Sean Spicer, and it confirms everything that we suspected, which is indeed that it was completely ideological, and because the White House doesn't like the stories that are coming out from some of these media outlets. So we're going to dig into that with leaked audio tomorrow, and it's so bizarre. Once again, we have now two people from Fox News, Shep Smith and Brett Baier, saying this is nuts, this is bad. And when Fox News becomes the voice of reason, not really, but kind of, when Mitt Romney and George W. Bush seem comparatively thoughtful compared to who we have in the White House, you know something weird is going on. Clarth1234 has sent a $5 Australian super chat saying, do you think that YouTube will eventually demonetize more videos and lower the CPM so political channels become less viable? Answer in Spanish. No, why would I answer in Spanish? Nobody would understand what I'm saying. I think that we've seen a slowdown in the demonetization of videos. So there was what I call, sorry, I just hit my mic. I hope that wasn't annoying for people. We saw an increase in the number of demonetized videos some months ago, and they typically related to something like war, terrorism. Certain keywords seem to trigger it. So what we've done is we're not really covering different stories. We're still covering the same stories we would cover because that's what I do on the show. I cover what I want. That's sort of the whole point of not having someone tell me what to cover and what not to cover. But we're a little more strategic as far as the keywords that we use. So if we talk about a story regarding terrorism, we might try to avoid the keywords war and terror and maybe just use the countries and, I don't know, the religions that are involved. We're sort of dancing around it, you know what I mean? Okay. So that's the answer to that. As far as lowering CPMs to make political channels not viable, I hope not. I mean, we've been looking at, that's an interesting question. Let me look at I was looking at our CPMs just over 2017, because January usually starts low. For people who don't know what we're talking about when we talk about a CPM, CPM, it basically means, it used to mean cost per thousand, but now it's really just used to mean how much ad revenue do you make per 1,000 views. And on YouTube, that sort of differs pretty drastically depending on the vertical that you're in. Vertical being, are you in technology or news and politics or whatever. And if I look at, I don't know, let's see how far back I can look. CPMs were, CPMs are kind of, I mean, yeah, CPMs are down, I guess, relative to what they used to be, but it hasn't been a continued decline the way that some have suggested, at least, you know, and this may be skewed because we're in news and politics, and during 2016 being an election year, it sort of went up. So I don't know. I mean, I hope that, listen, part of our business depends on YouTube revenue, so I hope that doesn't happen. Nice2347 sent a $2 super chat saying, how much longer do you think this will go on, David? It depends what you mean. I don't know what exactly you're referring to, but if you mean Donald Trump being the president, it could go on for quite a while because, again, whether it's constitutional issues or issues of conflicts of interest, whatever, it depends on a Republican House to really start investigations. And I don't know, unless Trump's approval rating gets down into the 20s, maybe even, I don't know if 29 will do it. It might have to be mid to low 20s. I don't know that Republicans are going to be too eager to investigate him. EG sent a $5 super chat saying, David, would you consider your channel an unbiased news source? I watch you and Sargon for opposing views on Trump actions. Love the show. I didn't even know that Sargon liked Trump. I mean, I don't know that much about his specific political views. He's interviewed me, I've interviewed him, or maybe not. Maybe I've only interviewed him. I guess he hasn't really interviewed me. Listen, so there's a couple different things we have to talk about. Bias and unbiased. Everything you watch has bias, Okay, now it could be institutional bias if you're watching corporate news, where the lens is sort of a how do we need to relate to our advertisers type of bias. You might have overt political bias in terms of on the political spectrum, but I think that there's significant confusion and sort of a lack of media literacy around these issues. So first of all, when you're talking about bias, bias is not necessarily that there is opinion, right? I mean, I do a progressive show. It is an opinion show. I don't pretend that what I do is report news in a so-called unbiased way. We don't even do original reporting. This is analysis, and this is a liberal show. So am I unbiased in the sense that I pretend to be neutral? Absolutely not. But what we also have to distinguish between neutrality and objectivity. And neutrality is typically a concocted or fabricated veil, okay? Because there's very little actual neutrality. But what we want to pay attention to is objectivity. If I were to come to you and say, I'm going to give 50% of attention to climate science believers and 50% to climate science deniers, on paper I'm appearing to be neutral, but there's nothing objective about that, because the overwhelming science on climate change is that of climate science belief, not climate science denial, okay? So objectivity, neutrality, bias, we've got to understand this stuff. We've got a $10 super chat from Isaiah Rowe, who says, my parents and family worship Trump, call Obama and Hillary communists. My dad is called Hitler and Kim Jong-un liberals, and they despise gays and think blacks should be swinging from trees. Any advice? Okay, that's a pretty tough situation. That's some pretty serious stuff, Isaiah. I think that if my primary advice would be, it's probably healthiest emotionally not to engage in political discussion with those folks. Okay, that's probably the best way forward. If you want to engage in politics with them, I would suggest questions like what Peter Boghossian recently suggested. We did an interview with Peter Boghossian, which I recommend you check out, where he said, you may want to start with something like, what evidence could I give you that would change your mind, right? So to go back to the specifics, Kim Jong-un is a liberal, okay? I would say, what would change your mind? What evidence, I'm not saying I have this evidence, but if I did, what evidence would change your mind that Kim Jong-un is not liberal? And they might say, well, if you could show me that conservatives act the way that Kim Jong-un acts, that would change my mind. And then you could put together a very, very long series of facts, and sometimes facts don't matter, about how actually these authoritarian, autocratic regimes are far-right regimes. They're not far-left regimes. But if you ask this question of, well, what evidence could I give you that would change your mind about Kim Jong-un being a liberal? If they say none, then you go to, well, okay, so you're not operating in the world of facts, and that's a sort of different conversation, okay? And I'm paraphrasing, and you can check that out. But I would sort of approach it that way and try to get emotional distance from it yourself, and don't make it about what you believe, but make it about how the other person has established their beliefs. Okay, so a few thoughts there. A couple of other super chats going by. $2 from Courtney Haynes with no comment. $2 from Nice2347. What's your biggest concern with Trump nuclear war? I actually don't think it's nuclear war. My sense is that I hope there are people who would get in the way of nuclear war. I'm more concerned about just fundamentally altering. This has already happened, but it could happen even more. Fundamentally altering what counts as reasonable politics for the United States of America to engage in. So, and that could prove incredibly embarrassing. All right, let's see if I need to block any people. I see a bunch of people saying that I need to block Renee. Okay, yeah, Renee is doing a lot of homophobic slurs in Spanish. I guess I'll block that. Seems worthy of a block. Why not? I've said it before. I'll say it again. The ban button is free. And if people are just going one comment after another, it's not fun for anybody. All right? It just isn't. And yeah, I'm looking at maybe bringing in some regular moderators into the YouTube chat. And it's funny because we are so liberal when it comes to the blocking stuff. If you look at the comments, the YouTube comments, not like the live chat comments, but the comments on our videos, on our not live videos, almost anything goes. I mean, it takes a lot for someone to get blocked, and yet still people are breaking through that and getting attention that makes people want them to be blocked during the live chat. So okay, anyway, we'll deal with that as needed. Before I get back to some of the stories we'll be talking about tomorrow, thank you to RJ Adams, who signed up at davidpakman.com/membership. The coupon code for 40% off is I voted 17. Number one funding source for the David Pakman Show. Elliot Bonsall also doing a membership with the coupon code I voted 17. You can sign up at davidpakman.com/membership. And lastly, Frank McWright also signing up at davidpakman.com/membership. Membership is normally $6 a month. Oh, sorry, Elliot says Bonzel. Okay, Elliot Bonzel, I apologize. Membership is normally $6 a month or $60 for the year, okay? If that price is too high, just use the coupon code I voted 17. You'll save 40%. You still get all the member benefits. And tomorrow on the bonus show, we will be talking about a pretty bad car accident that producer Pat and I witnessed last night, and a lot more, okay? Andre Moose sent a $5 super chat saying, "Hi, David, hello." Okay, let me tell you about another story we're going to deal with tomorrow. Do you remember, okay, let me go back a little bit. The Trump administration has had this, I guess I would call it a trend because it's happened at least 3 times now, of making up terrorist attacks that don't exist in order to prove some kind of point or push some kind of policy. And one of those was when Donald Trump recently talked about, did you see what happened in Sweden last night? And of course, nothing happened in Sweden. Nothing at all happened in Sweden. And Donald Trump ended up tweeting that he got that story from Fox News, okay? So Fox News, instead of saying, oh, well, you know, we don't know what the hell Donald Trump is talking about, Bill O'Reilly doubled down and went in to do a full-fledged jumping the shark interview with a guy that was presented as a Swedish defense advisor, okay? Bill O'Reilly interviewed Nils Bildt, who was called Swedish Defense and National Security Advisor. And he, of course, showed up and said it's a big problem. We're concerned about immigration, Sweden, blah, 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 blah. And actual Swedish national security and intelligence experts started looking into Nils Bildt, and they said, we don't know who this guy is. This guy is not anybody that we know. We don't know about this guy at all. And it turns out that this was an imaginary Swedish defense advisor. People started looking into the guy. It turns out he hasn't been in Sweden for like 25 years. He also is not an expert on Sweden. I mean, just completely fabricated. And supposedly tomorrow night, Bill O'Reilly is going to comment about this. There's going to be some kind of commentary made about this, and I'm looking forward to that. So just stunning, absolutely stunning what's going on Fox News, and just making up experts. Amazing. Okay, people calling for more blocking happening in the chat. Who needs to be blocked here? Someone named Peter. People are calling for blacks. Blocks, not blacks. Peter Arnold. There are racist comments about blacks. Freudian slip there. Peter Arnold. David Pakman is lying now. I don't think that that's ban-worthy. I mean, he can say that I'm lying. People can judge for themselves. You can look up these stories and see what's going on. Okay. What's next? Michael Rogers. This support is in honor of the Sweden and Bowling Green massacres. Very clever. Is this, I think I may know who that is. Let me just see. I'm not going to out this Mike. Yes, it is. Mike, it's so good to see Michael Rogers, and some people may actually know who Mike is, sending a very, very clever super chat supporting in honor of the Sweden and Bowling Green massacres, of course, both non-existent. Okay, here's a few other stories that I'm looking at for tomorrow, and we basically have time for, depending on the duration of the interview that we do, and tomorrow we're interviewing attorney Mike Papantonio about his blockbuster victory over DuPont. in a trial about 10 days or so ago. So I already told you about 6 stories. Okay, it's Sunday night. I already have 6 stories ready for tomorrow's show, and I have 15 more. I mean, this is the era of Trump where it's not even clear what to cover. Trump said he saved $1 billion on Air Force One jets. The Air Force doesn't have any clue what the hell Trump is talking about. Okay, yet another one of these fabricated stories. We've learned that an aide to Donald Trump was heavily involved in forging ties to Hungarian anti-Semitic groups. This is someone now that is advising Donald Trump. Possible story. Donald Trump asked the FBI to stop looking into that Russian dossier thing, which is we increasingly know that it's not only does it exist, but much of what's in it is true. My friend Ryan Clayton, who I know from just activism and whatnot, he showed up at CPAC and handed out Russian flags to people that said Trump on them. Of course, Trump is so low information that they didn't even know that they were Russian flags. Eventually, they were confiscated by CPAC. Brilliant trolling. Absolutely love it. My phone ringing there. Why are people calling me? Can't they see I'm streaming here? Trump doesn't seem to know the difference between the debt and deficit. That's a story. Millions of people could lose health care coverage based on the new Republican health care proposal. A majority of Americans want Congress to investigate Trump's contact with Russia. So many stories. I mean, just truly, truly unbelievable, the number of stories that we're looking at for tomorrow. Let's look at some of the super chats that are going on. Courtney says, how can we improve critical thinking skills in America? Do you think a lack of such skills affected the election? Yes, absolutely. We should be teaching critical thinking skills in school, and it should be just a fundamental part of education. There are many state education boards, including the one in Texas, that don't want that happening. I think we know why. Okay, so we absolutely need to be teaching critical thinking starting very, very early on. Okay, Patrick sending a $5 New Zealand super chat. Hey, David, thoughts on Bill Maher's latest show where he says that news became clickbait, which made it easy for Trump to claim it's fake news? Haven't seen that. That's interesting, though. That's very, very interesting. I'm going to look into that. There's probably something to that. $15 super chat from PRC. No comment, no question. Thank you very much. And a $5 super chat from Diego Diablo, who says, some say this is a new era of nationalism with Trump, Le Pen, etc. Others say this rise in reactionaries is a growing pain of a more interconnected world. I don't know that it's one or the other. Nationalism, you could see something that is not nationalism per se, but is also not a reaction to an interconnected world. I think that the nationalism that we're seeing, I read a really interesting article actually about nationalism, which sort of distinguishes between nationalism that is a positive influence and nationalism that is a negative influence. And so, for example, an example of positive nationalism would be pride in really well-designed and functional and beautiful cities, right? Wow, my country just has great cities with amazing public transit and architecture, etc. That's a great way to be sort of nationalistic. Nationalism in the sense of we're better than people from other countries based on arbitrary lines that have been drawn, that's not really good nationalism, okay? So I might tweet that article out. It's a pretty interesting article. Okay, let's go to the next super chat. We have a $5 super chat from Sharice Walker. Hey, David, when I buy through your link on Amazon, should there be something that shows it did work? No, not at all. You go to davidpakman.com/Amazon. It'll redirect you to Amazon. And then everything you buy, we get a little kickback from. And there should not be anything per se that shows that it worked. You just go to davidpakman.com/Amazon. $5 super chat from Sean Mahoney. Has producer Pat's coffee daddy been identified yet? There's so much backstory. It's a brilliant question, but there's so much backstory. The quick story was, we were talking about David Pakman Show Coffee on the show the other day, which is available at davidpakman.com/gear. And producer Pat I don't know if I want to say admitted, but because admitted implies objectively that there's something bad, but stated that he uses Keurigs, Keurig pods, and it was just insane explosion. We saw people posting on our Reddit saying that I was visibly shaken by the revelation, etc. And then Pat clarified by saying, I generally use the reusable Keurig pods, but unless someone gives me the regular Keurig pods. And now what people want to know is, does Pat have some kind of Keurig pod sugar daddy or sugar mama? And I have not gotten to the bottom of that. I've not gotten to the bottom of that. So I unfortunately don't have too much more to say about it. Okay. Thank you to a number of other new members, including Zach Newbegin, Dolores Rintoul, and Stephanie Walker, all who signed up at davidpakman.com/membership using the coupon code IVoted17. Membership does come with daily commercial-free 1-hour TV and radio shows. So instead of watching our 3 to 5 minute clips from the show on YouTube, which some people like, some people would rather the entire show, you get a full video that is just for our paid subscribers. We also do a daily bonus show just for our paid subscribers as well, 15 to 20 minutes. We talk about other stories. Tomorrow we'll be talking about this really pretty horrifying car accident, actually, that Pat and I witnessed last night. Okay, so talked about that, talked about some of the stories, talked about the DNC chair election. Okay, we've got great interviews coming up. I have finally made contact with Natasha Dow Schull. I recently recommended the book Addiction by Design, which is about machine gambling, meaning video slots and video poker, and how casinos are designed to keep people there and get them spending more money, etc. Absolutely fantastic book from Princeton University Press. I recommended it on the show recently, and we reached out to the author, Natasha Dow Schull, recently, and she said that she is going to, she's interested in doing the interview, and we're just sort of working on lining up the dates at this point. So that is hugely exciting. Also this week, I will be running my interview with Stefan Guillenet, who's an expert in the history of obesity, dieting, diet scams, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of really, really good stuff coming up on the show this week. And I mean, we've had a record month on every platform. Last month, we had a record month on every platform. And then now we have another month that has blown last month out of the water. I'm anticipating we're going to surpass 13 or maybe even 14 million YouTube views, which would be indeed a record for us. We may, depending on being the 26th today, we've got just 3 days, 2.5 days, not even 2 days and a few hours left for new members, but we may get to 500 new paid subscribers in a single month. Our prior record is like 200, okay, so more than doubling that. And the podcast also, even though February, a short month, only 28 days, we've already, days ago, passed our total month record for podcast downloads. A couple other super chats. Clarth1234, $2 Australian super chat, saying, am I friends in real life with the co-hosts? Rest in peace, Lewis. Yeah, I mean, just last night with producer Rachel Gordon leaving, we had great little outing with current producer Pat and outgoing segment associate producer Rachel, and Ben Dixon went, who hosts his show out of our studio, and Ben's intern. It was a great time. Still in touch with Lewis, of course. Lewis, a childhood friend of mine, and yes, it's all happening. $20 super chat from Chicago is my city. Do you think the Russian involvement story is partly a method of obfuscation from the Democratic establishment, they unwilling to accept responsibility for having simply a bad candidate that nobody wanted to vote for? Well, that's Donald Trump's view. Oh, hold on a second. We've got the Jew fag comments going. That's sort of like Instablock. I mean, come on. We can't have that nonsense going on. Okay. Sorry for that distraction, folks. That's the Trump story. Trump's story is that the entire Russia thing is meant to distract from the fact that Hillary lost the election. And what Chicago is my city is suggesting is something similar. I don't know at this point who's still talking about Hillary having lost the election. So it would be a very, I think you would be drawing more attention to it. I think it's a very, very bad, it's a bad strategy if that's what it is. So the question, of course, being, is it partly that? I just don't see this as a story that's coming from the Democratic establishment. So is the Democratic establishment in some way benefiting from that? And maybe it leads to putting in the establishment candidate as DNC chair, Tom Perez. Maybe, but if it's partial, it's a very, very small percentage. We've got a £5 super chat from Scott Porter, who says, do you think that people should take an IQ test before being eligible to vote? Seems like some Trump supporters cannot understand even simple facts. We've talked about this in the context of parenting. Should parenting have some kind of test? Because, hey, listen, the kids would benefit from that. The problem with all of those ideas, even if they sound somewhat logical at face value, is that they would invariably be there's the very real risk that they would be applied in a way that would be discriminatory based on class, could be based on race, education, etc., etc. So it's pretty problematic. $5 super chat from Andre Muse, who says, I think the Russian involvement story is all nonsense. Couldn't disagree with you more. I mean, at this point, listen, Andre, here's the thing. And I say this with peace and love, and I appreciate that you've sent 2 super chats for a total of $10. But as you know, I don't change or modify opinions based on people contributing financially to the show. What aspect of the Russian involvement story has been debunked so far? It's been the opposite. Just about every rumor regarding Russian involvement has been partially or completely verified. So I am of the mindset that increasingly I'm more and more concerned about Russian involvement with everything, right? I mean, with you know, the Russian blackmail dossier. First, it's all fake. The dossier doesn't exist. Nobody was briefed about the dossier. We then learn, oh, actually, yes, the dossier exists, and Trump and Obama were briefed about the dossier, but the contents are fake. Then we learned, oh, actually, some of the contents aren't fake. Some of the contents are real. And tomorrow we've got a story about even more of the contents being real. So no, I completely reject the notion that there's nothing there. Okay, a few new members. I don't know if I already thanked Cheryl Moore, but Cheryl Moore signed up at davidpakman.com/membership using the coupon code I voted 17. Jessica Bryce signed up at davidpakman.com/membership, also using the coupon code I voted 17. It's very simple how this coupon code works. You get 40% off, but you get 100% of the benefits. Pretty straightforward. Okay, how could that go wrong? Okay, a few comments, people asking that I mentioned that the David Pakman Show was looking into getting a drone recently, and have I made any decisions on that? Yes, indeed. We have we have put in an order for the DJI Mavic Pro. I think that's the way to go. And you can check out a picture. By the way, please follow me on Instagram. I am on Instagram, and that's where I post. I think the most interesting stuff I post in some way is kind of on Instagram, and I'm there at david.pakman. Follow me there. You can check out a picture of the drone that we're going to be getting. I was test flying it, and a lot of other pictures, me making empanadas, me with a corned beef sandwich, etc., etc. And it's going to be great. We're going to be able to travel with it, and we're going to be able to do a lot of really great things. A user named MS PowerPoint sent a 200 currency super chat, but it's a currency I don't recognize. I don't know if that's Korean. No comment, no question, but thank you. I don't know how much 200 of your currency is in US dollars, but it sounds pretty high. Someone else saying that it's Indian rupees, someone else saying it's yuan. Yeah, I don't know what that is. Okay. And hey, by the way, people saying that Kyle's opinion is better about the Trump-Russia thing. What does that really mean? What you're really saying is you like his opinion better or you agree with it. But what does that mean that it's objectively better? I mean, I think I just sometimes I don't get what people are talking about. What does that mean? Okay. What, somebody's saying that 200 of that currency is $3. All right. Well, there you go. I appreciate it very, very much. So, okay, listen, we've talked about the stories that are on tomorrow's show. We have given some amazing shout outs to our new members. The coupon code I voted 17 continues. We've had a lot of great super chats. I've mentioned that you should follow me on Instagram at david.pakman. And on that note, I'm actually going to go. I am making tonight seared tuna rice bowls. And I don't know how it's going to come out, but I'm going to post a picture of it for you later. So thanks to everybody who joined me. The picture will be on Instagram at david.pakman, and please do sign up at davidpakman.com/membership.